Chocy Chat, it is Friday, 24th of May already, and it's episode 136. So, how's everybody doing? How's Chocy Chat? Is everybody good? Some amazing stuff yet again this week. Truly, I've been a busy boy this week. Too busy this week. So much stuff going on. Corporate orders, butters, classes, just monster week, absolute monster week. But yeah, it's all good. How is everybody doing? Nettie's there, I can see. Billy there, it's got his chocolates. But he did some nice stuff this week, didn't he? Chocolicious by Nicholas. Hello, it's a new name. I haven't seen you before, but welcome. I'm going to send some hellos out, some waves, colouring indulgence. Fabian, I can see. Fatima. Mrs. So Sassy's joined. Paul there, Flying Banana. Mother Baker, how you doing, Mo? I'm looking well. Yeah, I'm tired. Looks are deceiving. Exhausting week this week. Really exhausting week this week. So, as usual, bit off more than I can chew, but you know what? Got it all done. Late night last night. Started at 6 a.m. this morning. So, burning the candles at both ends. How is all the crew doing? So, Temper.Den, thanks for the caramel tips. You're welcome. Alison there in Canada, I can see. Chocodilic is in Spain. Surfer Leg there down in New Zealand. Andrew up in Aberdeen. Styling Chocolate, this is where everybody's going to go, I'm going to try and trick me to see if you know where I'm from. Tarek, hello. Paula's there. Paula's joined us. Paula's in Ilkley in Yorkshire, which is kind of north of England, right? But how's everybody doing? Is everybody good? Busy week for everybody. There's still some lovely stuff being produced. People are clearly buying chocolate. People are still making it. May have tailed off a little bit. It was sunny today, but for the most of the week, it's kind of felt like winter. With no northern lights either, which is always awkward, isn't it? Nettie there. Hello, Nettie. David Lilly there up in Edinburgh. He's at the W Hotel in Edinburgh. Very nice place, actually. Really beautiful hotel. How's everybody doing? So, I'm just going to scroll through. I don't know why my Instagram always jumps. It always jumps, but it does. I got asked a question. Ilkley is up north, isn't it? It's about me. If you look at the whole map of the UK, it's about halfway, isn't it? Billy's further north than you, Paula. And Jeremy Clarkson's the most northern person in the world, right? If anybody watches that, Jeremy, the farm, Clarkson's farm, absolutely love that. I'm just sending some hellos and waves out there. So, let me scroll back. Is everybody good? Is everybody having a good week? Nobody's answering. Nobody's writing anything. It's just all. I'm just going to send lots of waves out because I can. What's been going on this week? With a big corporate order. To take corporate order, I'll show you what's going on here. I do cricket balls, right? And for those, you know, shiny. So of all the moulds we did, which is nearly 90 moulds, I lost one chocolate, which I'll take that in terms of percentage. Absolutely good. But I got asked some questions about retail. After last week's class, got some more questions about retail, which prompted a kind of another discussion. But I was going to talk about like the difference really, because I think Chris popped on last week and said, yeah, look, just be careful with retail. Retail comes with its challenge. Retail comes with some real challenges, and it's negotiated challenges. The kind of wholesale, what I do in terms of wholesale is it doesn't go in a box. If I can, they will collect it, or will deliver it, or will do one or the other. One time I will deliver it, and the next time they'll come and collect it, just to keeps the costs down, or we share those costs. But it goes in bulk because they will do what they want to do with it, right? Corporate orders and wholesale orders and retail orders are very different. Retail's generally something I stay away from. We have been in stores, we've done bits and pieces, but it's hard work. And you've got to split the profits, and you kind of look at it at the end and go, you know, unless you're making 80% margin on your box, it's just not worth putting into retail, because you're going to have to chop 30% off that straight away. So let me scroll back. some more people joined us. Forest Road Chocolates there in Canada. Ellen there, I can see. Any ideas how to make tennis ball inspired bonbons? Yeah, I've got I'm gonna do. I bought some. I tell you what I bought is some liquid resin. I'm trying to think of the name, the brand's name. I'll probably go get one of the girls to go and get the box. But it's liquid silicone. So I was gonna do a little video. I know Andrei Dubrovic showed that, and I know there's some other chefs that did that. And then if I think back about 20 years ago, we did the same thing with that because we wanted to do a shape in a mold and we couldn't get somebody to make the stamp, so we kind of made our own. So I'll do a little video of that because I bought that stuff. In terms of doing the tennis balls, yeah, it's really just an S of a. If you can, it's going to be easier in half spheres than it is in domes, right? But it's really just that S shape with white chocolate or just off-white chocolate, and then just spray it. I'll tell you the colour that would match it really, really well is the Stolworth. Either go with the Stolworth or go with the Lemon Tree. The Stolworth would probably come out kind of, it's that shade. It is a yellow, it looks slightly green, but when you spray it, it's not lime and it ain't yellow, it's kind of right in between, but it's kind of more that tennis ball colour, right? So I would do that, Paula. And you could, of course, you could spray them and then just go through and do that kind of S line on the tennis ball, all that loop, and you could do that with a balling tool just to, if you spray the mould and you catch it while the cocoa butter's still wet, you can scrape that line in and then back spray it with white. That would give you the same thing. So Bart there in the Netherlands, he got a nice order this week. Who else? Didn't I do some last year? I'm always doing the cricket balls. It's ongoing. They have a few thousand when it gets towards the end, and then they'll order another few thousand. So chocolate spicy. I finally registered my chocolate company. I've got my kitchen approved. I've most of the time been here as Chris00, but my chocolate account is this. So I think everybody knows chocolate spicy, don't they, Chrissy? James, do you do custom colours? Yes, we do. We do custom colours. Generally, it's going to be 4 litres though, because I'm sparking all the machines up and changing over the bottles and changing over the labelling, and the process that we've got would mean I don't want to do a small. I don't want to do a single bottle. Like I think the minimum's 8 of these. I think it's 8 of the 280 grams or 4 kilos, right? Whichever. But yeah, we do a lot of bespoke colours. We do a huge amount of bespoke colours. But you'd need to buy the volume to make it worth me changing some of the machinery over so that we can take care of that, right? Because it is to do with the minimum amounts that we make. And then when I make a bespoke colour, I've still got to register that colour as, it's just to do with the regulators and the legislation. We don't just like mix some colours, throw it in a bottle and go, yeah, that's going to be okay. No, there's a whole load of stuff, paperwork that I need to do to register that particular thing that I've done, right? So, Cheltenham Chocolates, hello. But David, yeah, get in touch. I can do all that. I can do all that. Loney's joined us. Loney posted something really nice earlier. All the collections of stuff that she's been doing. They're all bars and things, but really, really, really cute, right? Can you suggest a system for pricing workshops? Yeah, Evelyn, I can. Do you know what? It's pricing. Pricing workshops is nothing. Is absolutely nothing like pricing chocolates. They're 2 different things, because one is a product and the other is a service. So there isn't a formula for it. You need to look at your space. So you would look at your space. You'd look at your rent in terms of what you'd lose for the day. If you're having people like the general public in, you're going to need to look at public liability insurance. So you would take that into account as well, because there's a difference between somebody coming into your shop, buying something and leaving, compared to the insurance of somebody coming and staying and doing 7, 8, 9 hours, right? So you take into account like the kind of rent for the day, gas, electric, lighting, all that kind of stuff for the day, power. But then there's like the chocolate. So what are you going to make? How are you going to make it? What are you going to make it in? What tools you're using? Are they washable? Are they disposable? If they're disposable, it's a fixed cost. So you say this much and at the end of it, it gets thrown. If it's recoverable equipment, it's got to be washed. That's got to be considered. Pricing chocolates and pricing classes, a totally different thing. And also, like for me, the way I price mine is if I'm doing a hands-on class for the day, the price also includes that I'm not running my business for the day and generating income. So generally speaking, if I'm doing hands-on classes, I don't answer emails. I don't, like, my 100% of my attention is on that person that's doing the class for the day. If you've got a group class, I think you just need to consider, what are you going to use? Because if they're going to start using colours, it's very wasteful. If it's chocolate, again, it's very wasteful, and what is recoverable. If you're doing sprinkles and you need sticks, and you just got to plan out what it is that you're doing and cost it effectively, and then think about what you can recover back from that class. Nothing like, it's very different animal running classes to running. Some people don't do it with profit. Some people just do it to generate some interest, some PR, some public awareness, or to find customers. So you've got to decide, like the derivative, what is it that you want to gain from that? If it's to generate income, you need to make sure it's profitable. If it's not so much about income and it's more about spreading the word and getting something that's newsworthy, well, then you can tail back on your costings a little bit. But the molds, the washing, the cleanup beforehand. If you're printing stuff, what does it look like? Is it going in a book? There's just so much stuff that you need to think about. What I would say, Evelyn, is sit down, write down what it is you want to do, and like a normal shopping list, just plan out, visually in your mind, what happens along that journey during the day. And if you're offering food, that's got to be taken into account, and who's providing it, and is it food safe? There's so much stuff. Like everybody's kind of jumped on this teaching and coaching bandwagon now. Some are good, some aren't. But run workshops. You just got to price up what you're worth. I tell you what, I wouldn't do is start working out what my hourly rate is. If I run a business, I don't get an hourly rate. I'm not an employee. I'm a business owner. So get away from this mindset of, well, I'll price it at this many hours. No, you're not paid by the hour. You are paid by the business because you're the owner. So working out what your hourly rate is kind of wrong mindset. Totally wrong mindset. For all of you that are running businesses, you'll know there are months you get paid really well. There's months that you don't. There's months where you have to save. There's months where you do purchasing. But you're certainly not an employee. Therefore, if I was costing things out to run a class, I don't include my wage. I am part of the show. I'm part of the business, but I'm the owner. If I was hiring somebody in to help, then that's when I'd start allocating an hourly rate, right? But there isn't a system. You've got to know what you're worth, right? And what you're teaching and how much information you're giving away, and what's the value of that information. And there's a lot to consider. And you're closing down for the day, so you're not going to be making product, you're not going to be making chocolate, you're not going to be answering calls, you're not going to be answering emails, you're not going to be doing your day-to-day stuff, right? So if I can gently heat bisque off so it pipes well, is there a reason it need to make it into something like a ganache, or can I just use it 100% pure? Good question. You can just pipe a little bit in there. I tell you what I would do though, Billy. If you get a big spoon of it and have a taste, and then ask yourself, would you want to find that in a bonbon? That's the big one. I know somebody said to me, like, you can just pipe peanut butter directly into the mould. It's fine. Do that. Put some peanut butter on a bowl, on a spoon. Put the same amount of chocolate. Eat it, and then ask yourself, is that nice? Is that what I'm looking for? It's the taste test, isn't it? But certainly it's shelf stable in the jar, so it'll be shelf stable in the mould. What I wouldn't do is put too much of it in, because it's a little bit Biscoff. Here's the roof of the mouth, and it's quite drying. It's kind of like peanut butter. It's got that desiccating quality when you eat it, hasn't it? And it just dries the mouth out a little bit. If you pair that with a really bitter or quite dark chocolate, people are going to be looking for a glass of water when they eat the chocolates, right? You just kind of want to try and avoid that a little bit. Good evening, chef. What would you say is the ideal temperature for the cream when making caramel? I make a 100 kilo batch 3 times a month. Bring the cream to the boil. Actually, if you're making a dry caramel, The only reason we heat the cream up is so that we haven't got too much of a temperature shock. Okay, so when we're making a dry caramel, we're generally taking it up to kind of about 180. That's the temperature of frying of oil. Like if you're deep frying something, that's the temperature of deep frying oil. Can you imagine if you just tipped water into a pan of oil? It just absolutely explodes everywhere. If you've got a pan of caramel, if you don't, like if you need the cream hot, and the cream needs to be, I'd say at least over the kind of 85, because what you don't want to do is put something cold into caramel. First thing that'll happen is the whisk or whatever you're stirring with will just set solid, and when you lift it out, you've got this massive Medusa haircut of spikes coming off and then you've got to boil it and try and get that to melt back in. What we're trying to do actually is, the reason to heat the cream up is so that it's not so much, I mean, if you bring the cream to a boil and your caramel's at 180, we've only got an 80 degree change. If the cream was cold, we've got 180 degree difference, right? And it'd be jumping out of the pan. It's quite volatile caramel. For anybody that makes, I'm sure lots of you have made dry caramel where you add the cream to it. And I did one the other day. We had to make 12 litres times 2. You just try, and they were small drops to start with. It's just till we lowered that temperature of that caramel, so it's not quite as volatile, right? Because it can just jump straight out of the pan. But I mean, 100 kilo batch. Get the cream to the boil, or split the cream down into 3 or 4 pans, right, or 5 or 6 pans, so that you've got the optimal heat. The hotter the cream goes in, the easier it is to control, in my opinion. So, and then you're going to bring it back to 104 anyway, right? You're going to boil caramel back to 104 just to make sure we got those last kind of drops of water gone. But yeah, 100 kilo caramels, good amount, right? Make that every 3 months. Happy days. Mind your temper. Driving now to a market, just want to ask, when do you know is a good time to hire a casual? Just too busy and feeling overwhelmed but not making enough yet. God, that's on our mind as well here at the minute, is where do we, because we have bookkeepers, we have accountants, we have people that support the business administratively. I've got little pairs of helpers, but I think you would hire a part-timer when you've got sustained work for them, as in a big enough amount. If you bring them in sporadically, they're coming in to do a specific task. And I liken this to a kitchen. If I hire them during a quiet time, they're going to be leaning and cleaning, but not being productive in production, making things, right? Whereas if I hire them just before the busy times, I've got a moment to teach them, and explain to them specifically what I want. I think the challenge you've got with part-time hirers is that you need them to step into the business when it's really busy, so there needs to be an element of training. If you bring them in at right at the start of a busy time, you're going to spend the first kind of element of that time showing them or what you expect or what you need them to do, and it kind of feels like you haven't got any help because you're spending all your time with this new person that doesn't know what they're doing, right? So I think it's a tough one to call. I certainly wouldn't take people on until it gets busy. If you're feeling overwhelmed at the minute, take a break. There's a lot of people feeling this at the minute. I've had a couple of messages this week of people that just feel deflated, burnt out, all those kind of normal, they are normal, right? And it will go away, it will pass. But it's this ebb and flow of excited, Christmas, busy, get a little respite in January, and then we're kind of straight into looking at Valentine's, and the weather's good, we can make chocolate, we've got Easter around the corner, we've got Mother's Day, we've got all these events going on, and then we get to the end of that and it kind of tails off a little bit. I did a post earlier today about, it's the one that I sprayed with the green, and I said, it's these ones here. Is it those ones? It's those ones there. And I said, just, you do you. I'll tell you what causes more deflation, and what causes more kind of fatigue is when you start comparing yourself to what other people are doing. And social media has caused this. You kind of got to stay in your lane, and you got to find confidence in doing what you're doing. If you've kind of fallen out of love with doing chocolate, you need to take a break and then go away and have a think and get some ideas And then think about why you fell in love with doing this craft, whether it's chocolate, whether it's food, whether it's chef, doesn't really matter. I think anything that is artistic, anything that involves you being creative, you just can't be on all the time. There will come to the point where you just completely crash. Don't hire somebody to replace your fatigue. I think what you need to do is decide to take a break, have a refresh, take stock, clear your mind. We go out for walks. You know, the girls do sailing, and I went and sat down by the beach and did a list of all things that I want to do with reels. Some of the things, I made Rania some chocolates this morning because I've been thinking about this for months, right? These are little cups. They're the little cups that are done in that mould. Okay. So I've had a really busy week. It's absolutely been full on with classes, hands-on, classes in Canada, classes in Australia, classes in New Zealand, one in South Africa, and then in between it, a massive bulk order, and then on top of that, all the other things. What's driven me all week is saying, I've got to get to Saturday morning. And this morning, I woke up 6 a.m. No, I woke up before 6 a.m. and went to bed at maybe 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. Woke up before 6 and went, I've got to start, I've got to get going. I just wanted to get this order finished. I had 80 moulds to cap, clean the decks and started making those because that's what I wanted to do today. That's the goal that I wanted to achieve today. I think what happens with social media is you need to feel that you've got to perform based on somebody else's experience, and you don't know what they're making, why they're making it, or what the reason for them to film and produce it and then share that, right? Could be business, could be their own work, could be a promotion. They might have been paid to do it. It might have been something they did weeks ago when they had lots of time and they weren't doing anything. All this stuff is in the mix. I think the challenge of, same as followers, right? It's not something I measure, and I honestly couldn't tell you how many followers there are. I know how many are on the YouTube channel because I get messages always telling me, but like in terms of the other accounts, it's just not a measure because I can't influence it, right? I can't influence how many followers we have, so it's not something I focus on. Equally, if I see chocolates, I mean, it's very unusual that I see something and go, I don't know how that's done. It sounds a bit arrogant, but like I can work it out. You know, I'm bright enough and intelligent enough, been around long enough to understand technique drives everything, not recipes. So if I see a mix or I see something, I go, I kind of know how that's done. I'll just remember or make a note to go, maybe I'll do that again at some point if that's going to trend or if that's something people are interested in. Social media's made us measure ourselves against somebody else. The problem with that is we don't know why they're making that. I see lots of accounts. There's a couple of accounts that are constantly posting and boosting. When they do an advert. But then I also know that they don't sell a huge amount of product, and it does make me wonder, like, why are they posting over and over and over? Is that, if that's to drive traffic, maybe it's not working. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, mind your temper, take a break, right? Take a break, and sometimes taking a break is going back into the kitchen and doing the thing that you love doing and forgetting all this other stuff, right? Because I think as creative people, I am the worst person to be around if I'm not creative. You sit me at a desk or put me in a meeting, I am the worst person ever. I don't do meetings. I don't do it. Rania has all her meetings. She's very, very careful about telling me, you need to sit down on this meeting and meet this person, because truly, if I don't feel like I'm contributing, I'm out of there. I'll sit in meetings and do a mental list of all the things that I want to do and not focus on that. I'm creative. If I get to a point where I'm not being creative, I'm maybe not the nicest person to be around. And not that I'm nasty, but I get bored really quick. Equally, I'm so easily pleased. Right? I'm so easy. But I made those today. That's all I focused on today. And they're just for Rania. Nobody else is allowed those. I've not even tried one. And they are, the bottom layer is a salt caramel. Then there's a hazelnut gandulia. And then there's a roasted hazelnut. We put mould and salt flakes on there. I did a little disc on there, warmed it. I'm going to do a post tomorrow, and then we brush them with different. But there's a type of chocolate. Does people know they're called toffee, right? Rania really likes those. So what I've done is duplicate those, but I've done it with Valrhona Manjari. I've used Equatorial. I've used all my favourite things, right, to make chocolates just for her. That's what drove me today. James, would you give a wee shout out to my little commie chef Christina? She absolutely loves working with your butters. I saw Christina as well. I follow Christina as well on Ice Cocoa and on the page. I've got to say, David, I love that you are pushing your team to be more visual and get used to explaining what they're doing and why they're doing it. And I love that style of leadership, David, because it's really, really important. I had many arguments with general managers over the years because I would help chefs find jobs. What I mean is, when I employed chefs, I knew they were going to leave. So I might as well have helped move them on. So if they're going for an interview, tell me where you are. I can line things up. And if you need some additional skills before you start that job, so I know what you're working into. For instance, somebody that's going into a Michelin star kitchen, I kind of know what they need to learn before they get there. So when they arrive, they do a good job. So you might as well help people on their way. I think that Christina, she was spraying and doing her stuff the other day. I just think it's such a really good post, David. Really, really nice if you didn't see that. I think that might still be on my page because I think you tagged me in that. So Susie Floozy's there. Chocoloco is in Weymouth. Susie Floozy's in Essex. Dolce Mara is in Canada, I think. Dolce Mara. Who else have we got? Did I see Charity? Hello, Charity here. It is. Chocoloco is Charity in Zambia. You're in Zambia. Are you in Zambia or in Nigeria? I think you're in Zambia. How are you doing, Charity? I haven't spoken to you in ages. Charlotte in the Highlands. I really nearly read that. Charlotte not in the Highlands. No, it's Charlotte in the Highlands. I know Charlotte. Colourful chocolates. There's lots of new. The Flying Zookeeper. Hello. There's new names here that I haven't seen before. So let me scroll back. Happy days. Jason's joined us there in Napa Valley. How's he doing? He's doing well. He's doing really good. I know Jason's doing really well. So there's some good ideas here. I hope everybody's reading all these. I just can't keep up with scrolling through it and talk and say hello and multitask all this stuff. It's kind of like a meeting. This is the kind of meeting that I like having there. Ooh la la. Darth Chocolatier. Sorry I'm late. I was cooking steak. You're a chocolatier. You're now a chef. I don't eat steak. Last steak I had was about 15 years ago. Don't eat red meat. Don't really eat red meat. We go to the Middle East. It's like meat central. It's like we come back going, I need a salad. So after shelling, how long should I let the shells set at room temperature before putting in the fridge? How long should they stay in the fridge, and what temperature? Right. Should we get a mould? Right. Here's some I prepared earlier. I tell you what we also did this week is I did a talk. We have a thing here, the Girl Guides and the Brownies. So they are, it's kind of like the girls' version of Scouts, right? But it's the Scouts, the Scout organisation is broken down into Cubs, Explorers, Brownies, guys. So we did a chocolate demo for them. So in between everything that was going on this week, I had to stop and go and do a chat to their kind of 6, 7 and 8 year olds. And I tell you what, if you want to know if what you're making is good, go put it in front of a load of children and listen to the feedback, because they are brutal. They're so honest. They are so honest. Anyway, how long? So we would shell. So we got liquid chocolate. We shell. We tap it out. We leave it up on its side and leave it to go dull. Turn it up on its side and let it go dry. At this point, I tend to leave my, so all the ones that I've made this week, I literally have a timer. I will leave them on the table stood up like that for about 10 minutes. No more. No, it depends. If the room's a little bit cooler, we'll do it for 8 minutes. If the room's a little bit warmer, like 22, 23, we'll leave it for 10 minutes. I just want it to kind of relax. The chocolate's not crystallized, but what it's doing is kind of going through that dry phase. So it's gone from a liquid chocolate to a dry chocolate. And then it'll go in the fridge. My fridge is set at 12 degrees, okay? So I will put them in the fridge, stood up, and give you an idea of how long for. These ones, which did retract, and I've broken them a little bit because I was taking them all out, because I was showing these kids, they took about 3 minutes, okay? That dry phase is really important. If you shell and you've got liquid chocolate, if you put that in the fridge before that chocolate's gone dull, or give it any resting time, what happens is it soaks up. It's the chocolate's open, right? So it's open pores, and it's you put it into the fridge, it will just suck up all the moisture that's in the fridge. Were you looking for that dry phase, and you are looking for kind of around about 10 minutes. I can always put the air conditioning on and drop the room to 16. Again, if we were in the middle of winter, we got nets on there, but I might open a window, put the net back on, and just let any breeze come through, because that will help them crystallize. What I don't want to do is shell. I never ever do this. I wouldn't shell and leave them in here overnight, because in here overnight it can be, with the other bits and pieces we've got on with motors and stuff, and melting tanks and what have you, it could reach 22, 23 degrees. So they'd retract, and then they could sink back into the mould, and they sink back into the mould, and they look like, I can't do it, can I? These are fully retracted. Will it do it there? Yeah, there you go. You see it there? It sinks on the edge here, on that edge there, it sinks back in and it gets stuck, right? When that happens, you go to do a crack out, that's normally where you get whole chunks of chocolate left in the mould. I think that it's important for me. Nobody ever wants to talk about time. So we always talk about temperature and we talk about viscosity, but we need to also talk about time. If I was just shelling chocolate with no colour, I would shell it as soon as it goes dull. I want to just drop the temperature of it, because that's what will make all the beta crystals shrink. Okay, that's what retraction is. Retraction depends which side of the mould you're looking at, doesn't it? Chefs like putting poncy words on things. Retraction, contraction, depends which side we're looking at, right? Either way, both of them are shrinking. The only reason this is going to come out of the mould is because the chocolate shrinks, right? And it will pull away. If we leave it in there too long, it will sink back in. If we put it in the fridge too early, there's a danger that the colour won't come across. I remember I said last week that the colour, if we had the tools, right? If we had the tools, the colour, my dirty nails. If we had the tools, that's cocoa butter colours. I haven't got red hands today either. If we had the tools, that colour and the chocolate shell are two separate entities that have both shrunk and moved across. Very briefly, when we put the chocolate in the mould, we'll melt that layer of cocoa butter, but it doesn't move anywhere because the chocolate's not warm enough for it to run out when we tap, right? So we need that dry phase just to make sure that colour melts under 33.8 degrees, and then when they both cool down, they both retract at the same speed and come out. To do that, we just need to lower the temperature a little bit. In terms of how long do they go in the fridge for, the minimum. I'll put them in the fridge and we will check them. I'll check them after a minute, I'll check them after 2 minutes, I'll check them after 3 minutes. If there's the occasional one that hasn't retracted or shrunk, not the end of the world. If all of them have, the other one will. Many reasons that, sometimes they're stuck with vacuum. So I always get one that's stuck in the edge, and I bet you if I got a pin and I put a hole in the side of the shell, it would just retract in front of my eyes. When we scrape the surface here, sometimes you get very, very sharp. Like I do very thin shells, and the edges on it are like really, really, really sharp. I prefer that. That's my way of teaching. They go in the fridge for the minimum. The longer they're in the fridge, the colder they're going to get, and when they come back to room temperature, they will just get absolutely drafted in condensation, and that's going to possibly cause you other problems, right? So I hope that answered that. Is there a good person to learn about Instagram? It's hard to figure out who knows what, and I just want to move beyond the basics. Temper. I use so Emma Cleary is at Embrace Socials. She is very, very good. She had a million followers, closed it, and started again with all the lessons that she'd learned from the million followers. Quite an experiment, but I think what she does teach is, it's Emma Cleary. It's called Embrace Socials. Really straightforward without all the complicated jargon, right? I don't like classes that start, I don't know, just find it annoying. Just because you know the subject doesn't mean everybody else does, right? Particularly students. This is a point I was making the other day about, somebody says, why haven't you got a tempering machine? Like, because that's not what, I don't teach with I don't want a home producer to come here and I'll show them how to use a big machine that's automatic, but we'll never go through the rules of how to temper chocolate, what beta crystals are. Just stick it in the machine and go, there, you're done. I had a flurry of classes from students that had done another course, but the other course never covered cocoa butter tempering or chocolate tempering. And the problem is they were using £100,000 pieces of equipment, but at no point was chocolate tempering and cocoa butter discussed. So they've paid $1,000 for a class, and then the next day booked a class with me to go, I kind of need to know this bit as well. Anyway, but yeah, Temper. Emma Cleary, Embrace Socials, have a look, you can find her. Quick question, caramel. What's the ideal temp for a soft filling? Is it 114 too high? Yeah, I would, Dolce-Mara, I'd be looking, here's the thing, the temperature is one thing, but it depends on the sugar to fat ratio, right? So to keep things super simple, and I like simple, the reason I like simple is if we keep the ingredient list simple, it gets done the same way every single time. When we start putting, the breath of a spotted warbler and the toenail of an ant and all these other things, and kind of this stuff starts getting left off. Equal quantities of fat and sugar, so equal quantity. So if I was doing a kilo, it would be 500 grams of sugar, 500 grams of cream. We'll boil the cream, make the dry caramel, add the two together, and then for every 400 grams of those two mixes at the beginning, I would add 95 grams of chocolate to thicken it, or another fat. So 200 grams of sugar, 200 grams of cream is not going to give you 400 grams of caramel, because when the water's come off, you're going to be left with about 320. Then we'd make up the difference to 400 grams with chocolate, and that'd be the setting agent. 114, if you do it like that, will give you a nice pipeable caramel, maybe a little bit too sticky. I'd be more inclined to go to 112. However, if you're doing a caramel that's really high in sugar with less cream in it, 114, it will be like, it just be solid, like the rollerball, so the temperature is one thing, but the fat content is the other. The fat content won't disappear. The fat content is what will keep the chocolate or the caramel malleable. Do the recipe with equal ounce. And the other thing is, and I'll get a bowl here, look. Where are you? That one is cold because it's in the fridge. I've got, somebody asked me about the lids. They're just little like silicone pullover lids that go on it, right? That's a caramel that's on my page, right? It's very versatile. I can add a milk chocolate, a white chocolate, a dark chocolate, totally up to you. A white chocolate will be blonder, caramelized chocolate a little bit blonder, milk chocolate a little bit darker, and then a dark chocolate caramel ganache I like. It's 95 grams in that 200, so I will track back with that recipe because it's just easy to do on a phone calculator, right? That one I will always boil to 104. I don't take it much further. I will always boil it to 104. If I want something really sticky that we're going to put in truffles, I'll boil it to 107. If you're doing a caramel that's more cream based than sugar, yeah, you'll need to take it up to like 114, 116. Generally speaking, 114 should be good enough. 112 soft caramel, 114 a little bit chewy. Take it to 116, 118, which is quite difficult to do. You're going to wait a long time for it to get to that temperature. For anybody that's made caramel at home, you stand there with a probe going, you're like that, you're like, nothing's happened, nothing's happened, nothing's happened, 10 minutes, nothing's happened. Oh no, it's gone over. So I boil it to 104 because I can hit that temperature within a few minutes of making a caramel, and then I can measure off an additional fat. So whether I add a cocoa butter or add a chocolate, my mantra has always been get more chocolate in your chocolates, right? I have to answer that. 114, we'll see. What's the noisy machine in the background? That's my fridge. Could be cars. That's my fridge on defrost at the minute. But I've got air conditioning as well, so it could be that. I never hear it. Dolcimar is in South Africa. Yes, you are. Let's scroll through. Any questions? Bear with me a moment. I've got to scroll through. I was busy talking and didn't. Philippe Vieira, hello. Chef Goldsmith, hello. There's lots of people having chats, but nobody's asking. How soon after you take them out of the fridge do you fill them? As soon as they're retracted, I'm filling them. I've said this like 1,000 times. As soon as that comes out of the fridge and it looks like that, we're filling them. I'm not waiting. There's this theory that you paint on day 1, shell on day 2, fill on day 3, cap on day 4. It took me 4 days to make chocolates. I'd be out of work. We got a few thousand to make. Can you imagine? Once they've retracted, they you know, the 6th crystal happens where it becomes very, very brittle. That happens at 48, 72 hours onwards, right? So as soon as they've retracted or shrunk, I'm filling them, and then as soon as that filling's firm enough, I'm capping them. I'm in the business of making chocolates, not watching the clock. It doesn't take 4 days to make chocolates. I could paint some now, and I could shell them in the next hour, and then the second they've retracted, we could warm that and fill them, and as soon as that's firm enough, we'll cap them. If I want to speed up the firming of caramel, I only do this for caramels. We do it for gandujas and pralines as well. But what we'll do is once we've filled them, we'll leave them at room temperature just for like kind of 10 minutes, and then we'll put them in the fridge for 5 minutes, just because I always temper mine with all fillings that have got cocoa butter in, we'll temper them with silk. We'll put them in the fridge and just give them a quick shot of cold air for 5, maybe even 10 minutes. It'll just speed up that crystallization process. So once they're firm enough, I can cap them. They will continue to settle over the next few days. Leaving them overnight, they'll settle, but they actually, like that filling, it starts settling over the next 3, 4, 5 days. This is why it's important to temper ganaches and temper. It's a bit noisy today, isn't it? But yeah, as soon as it's retracted, we're filling them, right? I want to get them in, I want to get them made, I want to get them capped, I want to get them out, and I want to get them into storage so that they're protected and looked after. And then they'll start settling. Then the 6th crystal will start forming in the chocolate, and they'll become more brittle and all those lovely things, right? So, yeah, that's very true. I've had some that recently have retracted in the fridge, or at least some have, and then put them in the back on the table. When you shell, you get different layers of the mold, different. Around the edges, it's generally warmer. Where your hands are, your hand warmth, your hand warmth is kind of generally around about 32. That's going up in there. There's so much that affects it. The ones around the edge generally retract last. It's the ones in the middle that do. The thicker the shell, the quicker it retracts. I've got to say, I love that sound. You put them up on the side and you can hear them creaking and cracking. The only thing I do not do is, if they haven't retracted, I'm not flexing the mould, because that's when they will crack or split if the chocolate's very brittle, or if your fridge is really, really cold, they'll retract. But if you flex the mould, you'll crack some of them, right? And when you fill them, you'll know. You'll know what you've done. Toenail of an ant. I see some strange recipes. Basin North, yellow trousers, blue dog. the breath of a lesser spotted warbler. Here's the thing. I saw a recipe earlier today that was a post. I'm not going to say mention no names, but they mention inverted sugar, and it's like put the inverted sugar in with the caramel. Once inverted sugar gets over 70, inverted sugar, not glucose. Once inverted sugar gets over 70 degrees, it breaks down and it doesn't have the properties that you were looking for. So the good chefs and the good recipes understand technique will say, warm your cream and glucose to 65, okay, or inverted sugar to 65, then pour that over melted chocolate and make your emulsion that way. This was put everything in a pan, bring it to a boil, tip it over white chocolate. You've got a ganache that's going to last, 4 days. As soon as you heat inverted sugar over 70, its properties break down. I think it's 72 degrees. I'm racking my brains, but in terms of safety, yeah, as soon as you heat inverted sugar over, this is why when I see inverted sugar and a caramel, I'm like, why? Like, I understand glucose in a caramel because glucose adds elastic, right? It can give you some nice elastic. Somebody said you made a ganache with too much glucose. I'm like, that is cream, sugar, molten salt, and chocolate. 4 ingredients, nowhere to go long. To do a simple, easy recipe, right? But yeah, I often wonder why you see this inverted sugar. Why would you put inverted sugar into a caramel? It's got give it no properties whatsoever, right? And it's more expensive than sugar, so you might as well just melt sugar and make a caramel, right? So, hi, Professor James. Oh, not Professor. Emily Rose, chocolatier, how are you? I think you're in Puerto Rico, aren't you? Somebody said to me, how do you remember where everybody is? I thought I was in the chocolate industry. I thought I was in the food industry, which I've done for a few years. Been doing it a few years. I'm not. All this time I've been in the people industry. Because it's about human beings, right? It's about people. And it's giving shout outs to people here. I know it makes them smile. When I remember where they're from, I know it lifts their stuff. The amount of people that message me after Chocy Chat saying I was so kind of like dejected and I've run out of energy and I listen to Chocy Chat and I feel like I just want to go and make chocolate and have an amazing day, right? Well, if this little chat on Friday nights helps, that's what it was for, right? We all go through. I have moments, but I got a lovely, I have to make special treats for the lady that looks after me, right? Or ladies, I should say, 4 of them. How do I remember? I'm in the people industry. So are you. If you're making food for people, you're chocolatiers, but you're also in the people industry. So you've got to go and make those connections, because those connections, that's your customers. And they are human beings. They are buying what you want, and they would love to talk to you about what it is that you do. People have this thing where they say, oh, what do you do? And if you, I'm sure there's lots in Chocy Chat right now will say this. You stood at a market and they're like, what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a chocolatier. Really? I've never chatted to a chocolatier. They just want to have a full-on conversation and take your time, right? We're in the business. We're in the people business. We're in the people business. Don't forget that we make products for people. So make sure that you get those connections right. And if you're like, certainly with Chocy Chat, if you're having a bad day, go on the Chocy Chat page and saying, I'm having a crap day, somebody cheer me up. I guarantee there'll be loads on there. We'll go, actually, do you know, I'll pick up the phone and give you a call, right? Nobody's alone. Nobody should be alone. Do I send cocoa butters to Puerto Rico? Yeah, we have sent stuff to Puerto Rico. We actually, funny enough, the ones that go to Puerto Rico always say USA on it. I know it's an enclave of the USA, but the most recent one, it went to Florida, USA, and then it had to go across to Puerto Rico. So yeah, yes, we do. Wear blue trousers on day 5 and look north. Yeah, you got to have your phone in your left pocket, right? How long did it take you to paint 120 moles for the caramel chocolates? Well, I've got this big thing here. That is a platinum Q system. There's no dials. The only control on it is this. if I turn that dial all the way that way, that will spray concrete. So generally the dial is all the way down. I've got a class tomorrow on this one. With that, 120 moles. It's not more than kind of 30-40 minutes work. If I was doing it with the small ones, it'd take me for ages. I think the only challenge that I have with they have the stripes in which are chocolate. So if I get too close to the mould with that big air gun, it will blow the chocolate out the mould. So I just got to be really careful. They're brilliant, they're amazing, and they're a serious investment, and it will speed up what you're doing, because I can cover the mould with like 3-4 passes, right? And then scrape it off, give it a wipe, put it aside. We won't, it was warm enough, we'll just put those straight in the fridge, chill them once we spray, because that's just, again, it just speeds things up, but not for too long. 30 seconds, 40 seconds. The challenge with that one is there's no control, so you kind of really need to understand what's going on with pressure. And most of it is a tiny little dial that's on the hose. The hose is yay thick, right? The hose is as thick as the bottle of one of these, right? And on the edge of it is this tiny little valve, and that's where you regulate the air pressure. If I cranked the pressure all the way up and pulled the trigger, the thing would just blow out my hand. It's absolutely crazy pressure. But you can get, again, we'll temper the chocolate, we'll temper the cocoa butter with silk. We're using the cocoa butter at 32 degrees. It atomizes much faster. There's much more wet overspray. However, I can spray the molds much quicker. So time is money. 48 hours notice to get those bonbons done. It's if I was doing it with the little one. Having said that, I did back spray the pink ones that I did with the smaller, with these ones. Lost it. I back sprayed them with that one because I haven't cleaned it, look. So I just back sprayed those, but that, again, it's just a misting. It's not, we're not putting a big thick layer in there. It's already got I think the challenge you have with the big spray systems is the very edges don't get fully covered, so you end up with a mottled look. So I have to just go through and just give them a quick mist on those edges, right? That works for me. I made milk chocolate. It was quite thick. How can I fix it? Use skimmed milk. Vanna Rose Farm. What do you mean you made milk? What would thin chocolate down is more cocoa butter, right? Not more milk solids. More milk solids will make it go thicker and thicker and thicker. So, chocolate creams there in Iran. It's Emily. If it's more cocoa butter, Emily. Yeah, Emily Rose, more cocoa butter would thin the milk chocolate down if it's too thick. That's what adds the fluidity. The fluidity on your chocolate, I'm going to do a post about this later in a week, and it's going to be, I've already filmed it. I'm wondering whether to share it, because I just think chocolatiers need to understand this little graph that's on the side of chocolate. You've all heard me say it before. It's the most pointless piece of information. It's so outdated. But chocolate brands put this on the side of the packaging, and it doesn't actually mean anything, because it says, the fluidity and the drop, it's not very united across all the brands. So we got, 3 drop in one brand is 4 drop in another, but they both say 3 drop. So it's not very united. There needs to be a better classification of fluidity, I think, in my mind. Like if we said 5 drop was 100 and 4 is an 80 and 3 drop is a 60, for example, we'd have a better idea of where that is in terms of fluidity. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hit and miss, isn't it? Same as the chart. Warm to 45, drop it to 27. What does that mean? What does that mean? We warmed it to 45 and called it to how quickly? Too quickly? Not quickly enough? How do we call it? And then the line comes up, warm it back to 31, and then there's a dotted line. What does a dotted line mean? Nobody's ever. I know what the dotted line means, and it's from the days of seeding. It's from the days of tabling. We don't do that anymore. If the information on the side of the bag was any help, it would say, if you're using micro, melt the chocolate to 35 degrees, wait until it gets to 34, add 1%, stir it. The working temperature, you decide, because you put the beet crystals in and we're not warming it up, we're using it during the cool down. So I'm going to do a post about that later in the week and see if that causes some controversy. Fun. the fluidity in chocolate is mostly regulated by either the volume of cocoa mass in there. So a 45% or 40% milk chocolate will be more fluid than like a 54. But then the cocoa butter is what really changes the fluidity in chocolate, right? So looks like I've been sailing. Yeah, as I was saying, I love sailing. I've been sailing since I was a little kid. What would cause pâte de fruits to crystallise? I had a friend crystallise and I'm not sure what could have caused it. Jason, it's going to be, so when you put the, you get your pan, and the good recipes, not the shady recipes of influencers that are like, follow my recipe, let's see how good it is. The technique is this. We would take, generally speaking, equal amounts of sugar and fruit liquid, okay? The sugar could be made up of glucose, which is good because it adds elastin. So it could be 50% of fruit and then the rest is sugar and glucose. The crystals come from the technique. We would put the fruit juice in first, then the sugar, okay? And then we'd warm it to 50 and we would just keep it around about 50 until all the sugar has dissolved. So that when we put the stirrer in, right, we don't see any bits of sugar on there, because if that, we only need 1 or 2 grains of sugar in a preparation, no different to a caramel. You made a caramel and you get it fully made, you blend all the chocolate, it's all good. You get a little pinch of sugar and you put that in there and you give it a stir, you leave it overnight, you'll find you come in the morning and a massive ball of sugar's grown in it. We need a sugar crystal to grow a sugar crystal. The only reason that things recrystallize is there was a crystal in there. There won't be a catalyst. Well, there won't be an extraordinary catalyst that's caused it to crystallize. What will cause it to crystallize is crystals in there. Right? Does that make sense, Jason? Warm the fruit puree and the sugars together. Keep it at 50 degrees for as long as you need to. Again, we're talking about time, aren't we? We talk about measurement and we talk about temperature, but we never talk about time. Pâte de fruits the sugar needs to rehydrate, as in it needs to turn from crystal back to a liquid. The water content in that fruit puree is kind of what we're looking for to rehydrate or to dissolve those crystals, those sugar crystals. Sugar is it's crystallized format, isn't it? Sugar in a solid format, and then when we warm it, it turns back to a liquid, right? That's what dry caramel is. We add significant heat, it inverts and caramelizes. With the pâte de fruit, what we're trying to do is just make sure it's fully dissolved. Then we go to the next part of the technique, and that would be, once it's over 50, to add the sugar with the pectin slowly and not let it drop its temperature, so that we don't accidentally activate the pectin at a lower temperature. Because if you put it all in, give it a stir and try and bring it to the boil, you're going to end up with a mess. It's the wrong technique. Hope that answers that one, Jason. You need a crystal to make a crystal. So if something crystallizes, it's because there's a crystal in there. And if there was a crystal in there, it's because you didn't follow the right technique, right? Technique is everything. Recipes change, technique doesn't, right? Work on understanding techniques. You read a book, don't look at the pictures, read the techniques, understand the techniques. If you've got the technique down, you will start seeing a pattern and a formula within a technique. Now the recipe doesn't matter. You'll be able to grab a collection of ingredients, appropriately align it up with the right technique and make whatever you want. My cooking career, I love empty fridge. You know, people open the fridge and go, there's nothing to cook. It's like, oh yeah, there is. I can make a banquet from an empty fridge. I was practicing today without painting, just tempering. Happy days. How do I know if my compressor's strong? I don't know. Don't know what compressor it is, Evelyn. Can I use a airbrush that they sell at the home? Yeah, all the airbrush. on my have a look at the highlights bottom of my reel. I don't recommend equipment that I don't buy or haven't bought myself. I don't recommend equipment that somebody's given me. I only recommend the stuff that I've bought. We get sent lots of things, but I'm not in the business of promoting it. Saying money doesn't mean that much to me. What I mean is, I don't hook for every single penny that's lying around. Have a look on my highlights, and the airbrush information's there. You're looking for a 0.8 needle. In terms of like a compressor, the tank could be 200 litres, but what's the valve that's in there and what's the capacity of the regulator on there? Some compressors are designed to spray concrete, others are designed to spray emulsion paints, and it's kind of knowing which one, right? And I can't answer that because there's hundreds and hundreds of varieties and different brands of compressor. I always get a mottled effect when I'm airbrushing, even though I make it even opaque. What am I doing wrong? It's setting the pressure. Evelyn, you've done the airbrush class with me, I'm sure you have. We set the pressure for the cocoa butter we've got. It's really straightforward. We set the pressure for the cocoa butter we've got based on the conditions that we got today. Hot sunny day, a sunny day that's dry, we're not going to need as much pressure. When it's overcast and it's raining and it's really humid, we're going to need more pressure. There is not a magic number that you can airbrush at. Forget what that dial says, because actually what you're trying to do is see what the butter's doing when it lands. Okay. If you're getting a mottled effect, it could be too much pressure, it couldn't be enough. I can't see without seeing what the effect is. You need 0.8 needle. I think one of the bad habits I see people doing is waggling, right? So when they spray, they're doing this, yeah? And they're just not getting good coverage. That's a curve, so we would spray with a curve, okay? But if people that are doing this back round in circles, and it doesn't work like that. We're trying to lay down. The airbrush spray is a cone. So when it comes out of there, it comes out as a cone, but the centre's hollow. So if you keep waggling it, you're going to end up with all these missed areas. I would say it's hard. It's hard to answer the airbrush class. It's hard to answer the airbrush class on here. There's so much goes on to it. You know, the other thing I see that's a bad habit is they don't bring the trigger back far enough, because there's two stages to it. There's three stages to it. There's the first one down, and then to the clip spring, and then there is another area as well. So people don't come back far enough, and they end up getting splatter. It could be that. So it could be many things. Could be many things. Does the airbrush class cover the spray gun? I tried to use it but couldn't figure out the pressure, so went back to the trusted airbrush. No, I'm not doing. No, the classes for the turbine, I do them as the advanced class if somebody wants to do that. The turbine has an air gun to it, but I can also do an air gun on the compressor. But the compressor's not quite got, well, for the small one that I've got there, it's not quite got enough pressure. If you're using an air gun, you need kind of 50 litres. It's the reserve air. Otherwise, what happens is as the air's coming through, it runs out. It's also to do with that regulator and then setting the pressure for the cocoa butter you've got, and then you've got to know what temperature you're doing it at. The turbine's it's a very unique piece of equipment. There's no dials on it. There is no dials whatsoever. So you need to have mastered airbrushing. I think for people that have just gone out and bought a turbine, they're the ones that phone me or message me saying, I don't know how to do this. Yeah, because there's no instructions for it. There's not even any dials. There's nothing to look. There's no readout whatsoever. And the hose is as thick as that. And they're like, it won't fit. But I can, if you've got the turbine, I'll do the class. If you don't own one, it would be no point in doing that on the advanced class with me, because we just... it'd be like doing a class with me and then 3 months later getting the kit. You'd be like, oh, I've totally forgot what's going on. The people that I do the turbine class with generally have that piece of equipment set up, same as me, and then we'll spray at the same time. And I'll show them how the controls and dials and the whole thing is set. I mean, there's a tiny little valve like this on the side, and we turn that. And it opens a flap inside the hose. That's the only control you've got. So if you pull the trigger and you let go, you'd be painting your house, right, and the street and everywhere else. So Jason, does adding the sugar at too high a temperature have the same effect? Not really, Jason, but it's really about the sugar dissolving, right? The sugar's got to dissolve, and sugar, you know, if you try to get an equal amount of white sucrose sugar into mango doesn't have enough water content because of the pulp in there, so it's unlikely that the sugar would dissolve into it. So what we do is, we do it, you know, this is why you always see mango and passion fruit mixed together. One, it regulates the acidity of it. The other is, we need the water content to dissolve the sugar through into the water. There's not enough water content, so there is a saturation point that sugar will get to, and I think it's about 82%. So if there isn't, you know, there isn't 82% worth of water there, nothing's going to hydrate. So it doesn't matter what temperature you put that sugar in, even if it's high temperature. If there isn't enough water in there to dilute it and dissolve it, then you're going to end up with crystals left over. And then when you cook it, it's going to recrystallize, and it will look like, they look quite horrendous actually. Cocoa acidity breaks heavy cream. I don't know. If a PDF does crystallize, can you remelt it and save it, or is it just no good? Well, Paul, it depends on if it's a thermoreversible pectin, then yes. If it's not thermoreversible, then no, you can't. Technique is everything. We warm, you know, like I said, this ganache today with the I saw that it's got like they've even mentioned trimoline, which is a brand of inverted sugar. Once you go above 70, you might as well just not have it in there. You just might as well just do double the amount of glucose, and then you can boil it and not have any problem, right? But it loses its properties. Technique is everything. Pat de frites, we will read the good recipes, read the really good recipes. There's lots of chefs doing lessons at the minute, and some of them are abysmal, some of them are really, really good techniques, right? You pay for good techniques. We got to hydrate the sugar, because that will give us the mass, and when we boil it to a higher temperature, we're technically making a fruit caramel, which we are then setting with a pectin. If we don't follow those steps carefully, again, if you add pectin to a liquid that's, I think it's 40 degrees, if it's below 40 degrees, we'll hydrate the pectin and activate it before it's got to a high temperature. And if there's any acid in there, it will start setting, so you end up with all these little solid bits of rubber ball floating around in your, and they're scratching their head saying it doesn't work. If you go back and read the recipe, it will say, put the fruit juice in the pan and warm it. Add the sugar slowly and stir it. That gives it chance to hydrate, right, or dissolve, I should say. When the sugar's fully dissolved, we will drive the heat up to 50, 55, 60, and then add the sugar and the pectin mix, right? The reason we put the pectin in with the sugar is so that it disperses evenly when we're stirring, and you shake it in with one hand and stir with the other, or get somebody else to stir it in small amounts. If you throw it all in one go and give it a stir, you're going to end up little balls of pectin splattered around it, and it's not going to be enough to activate it. It's technique is everything, right? Technique is absolutely everything. Just gonna... Chocolate shells is there. Hello, Michelle, how are you? I'm moulding the shells are shiny, but after a few minutes they lose their shine. What could have gone wrong? I use dark chocolate. How cold are they when you're moulding them? Because if I, for example, these here, these are in a... Let's get out another... 1 second. Bear with me. Get these, show you these, right? If I take, these have just come out of the fridge, right? These are lovely, and these are really, really shiny. If I leave these at room temperature now, because they've come out of cold storage, these will go dull, because it's condensation. They're exactly the same. There's like 30 of these trays in there. If I leave those out now, they will go dull. So they're nice and shiny now, but they're cold, so they're just going to cling on to every little bit of moisture that's in the room, and they will go dull. once that moisture, or condensation I should say, once that's had chance to dissipate and evaporate, it will go back to being shiny. If they've come out shiny, it depends on the temperature of that room, right? Depends on the depends on the temperature of that room. I don't think you're doing anything wrong. If you're cracking them out and they're nice and shiny and they're turning dull, I'd suggest that you probably have them in the fridge too long, too cold. Especially if you cap like I do. You know, I cap and I stack them all in the fridge. Once I've capped and that's solid, I put them all in the fridge. They all stack up like that, right? Because I know these domes won't touch that base, so they're good to go. But then when I turn them out, they go out on here. They start misting over, and I'll just leave them. I can only get I had to do them in blocks of 14 because I can only get 14 on this table and have room to put the box. So that's the order that I do things. But yeah, they're all misted over, and then over a period of time, they'll do. It's no different if you take something out of the freezer, or you have a drink on a cold day. You go outside, you put ice in it. Put the drink on the table and it's just a wash with water everywhere and you think the glass is leaking. It's not, it's just condensation. What's the size of those trays? They are A4 storage trays. They're A4 storage trays. Somebody said to me, you can stack them up, right? Somebody said to me, because I've got a silicone, the paper in there is a silicone sheet, it's an A4 silicone sheet, and they said you can put another sheet on there because I've got 70 there and you can stack them up. Here's the thing, the customer, who is very, very VIP, they want shiny bonbons that aren't scuffed and dented. If I put another layer on top of that, why would I have put all the effort into painting them and decorating them and making sure that they've got the shine that they can see their face in, only to stack stuff on top and scuff them and damage them? I know people that do double and then just literally vac pack and throw them in the freezer. That's fine if you've got packaging with the little plastic blister packs so nobody can see whether they're shiny or not. We make them and then we protect them and we look after them until we deliver them to the customer. What they do with them, if they want to double stack them, that's absolutely fine. To get these, they have to bring me the 40 boxes back, right? And any that they're missing, I will bill them for. Okay, so we'll do the price of the chocolate, and then I'll list on the invoice how many boxes they've got and how many they need to return, and that's how we do kind of wholesale orders, right? Right, it's 22. I'm going to go. I've got to get up earlier. I've got a class. I've got to get up at 6 a.m. again because I've got a class in Australia tomorrow morning, followed by, and then almost immediately another class in New Zealand. So I'll have an early night. I need my beauty sleep tonight. Have a good week. It's nice to see everybody. It's nice to see everybody's doing well. Don't get despondent. We go through this ebb and flow. I think that don't measure yourself against everybody. Seek progress, not perfection. I'll tell you what though, when you seek progress, you will find excellence. Okay, and excellence is always better than perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. Seek progress and you will find excellence because you'll learn about what you're doing. All right, so I'll see you next week. I'll see you during the week. It's bank holiday, so and there's a load of orders come through. We're not sending anything out till Tuesday because it's bank holiday weekend here. I think spring break as well, isn't it, in America? Spring break. Came off my diary. Have a lovely week, everybody. It's nice to see everyone. See you next week. Bye bye.